created something spectacular.
You got so emotional about it.
Oh my God, this is the Holy Grail.
It was a watershed moment for the industry.
It all of a sudden just took everything you knew and mixed it all up.
Video gamers across the country are anxiously awaiting the midnight release of a game called Halo 2.
November marks the 10-year anniversary of Halo 2. And I am excited to tell you that Halo 2 is getting the full anniversary treatment.
The puzzle becomes, how do you honor the material? How do you keep it fresh and interesting for, a new generation?
Halo is about this incredibly powerful hero, Master Chief, and his AI sidekick, Cortana, and their journey to save the Earth.
We've always been very, very concerned with maintaining that gameplay to just feel authentic.
Dun, 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 dun. The moment that kicks in, you're like, yes, let's go.
We decided to go out and capture new source material this time around.
My friends' trust is not the issue today, Spartan Locke.
It's just absolute home run. It's probably some of the best fun I've ever had in Halo, and that's a pretty major statement.
At the end of the day, everybody has one thing in common, and that is a love for what we're doing and a passion to make this the best it can be.
So when I joined Bungie in 1998, I got hired to work on the Myth 2 team. And as I was working on Myth 2, in one room, there was this other room with a smaller number of guys in it working on something else, which at the time was called Blam, this totally top secret codename game that at first was a lot like Myth, was an RTS, but it slowly evolved over time into a third-person game that was on the Mac and PC, and then it became a first-person game that all of a sudden, bam, was on the console when we got bought by Microsoft. But Halo went through lots of different permutations along the road before the first version came out.
When we were working on Halo, it was actually the first time that we were developing a game first on Windows. And people don't know that because Steve Jobs got up at Macworld and showed off Halo for the first time and said, and it's being developed on, first for the Mac. It actually wasn't true. We had to scramble to do a Mac port of the game at the last minute for that Macworld conference.
And this is the first time anybody has ever seen it. It's the first time they've debuted it.
I remember Joe Staten, our writer, came to me and said, yeah, Marty, we need something. We're doing it on Tuesday, and this is Friday. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I said, okay, so it's just gonna be music. I'm gonna give you a CD. Somebody hits play on the CD. Jason's gonna go up on stage and hit the space bar on the scripted demo. And we're just gonna cross our fingers and hope that all this stuff comes together. I asked Joe, all right, what's the emotional tone? What's the story we're trying to tell? And he goes, I don't know, but it needs to be ancient, epic, and mysterious. I'm like, okay, ancient, epic, mysterious. So I called up my partner, Mike, and I said, Mike, I'm gonna come over. We need to figure out a way to do music. We're gonna record on Monday with an orchestra and some singers, but I don't know what we're recording yet. So this is, I believe, a Saturday, and we're recording on Monday. So on the way to his house, I'm driving over, I'm like, okay, ancient, epic, mysterious. Well, ancient, Gregorian chant monks singing. So I made up a melody while I was in the car. I came up with the whole melody in about the half hour it took me to drive to Mike's house. I walk in, I said, Mike, okay, we're gonna do big epic orchestra, but we're gonna start with monks singing and we're gonna end with monks singing, and that'll give us this nice epic ancient feel. And Mike's like, yeah, cool.
He's like, Mike, I got this idea and we got to be done with it by Tuesday. And I was like, it was just another thing. To me, it was just another thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll do it. Okay, and what is this thing about monks? Really? Okay, cool.
Jason got up and pressed the button to start it. And if you watch the video very closely, you can watch Jason take a massive inhale of breath right before he hits okay, because there was one bug that would have just really been bad if it happened at that moment. So it was a heart-wrenching, exciting time for everybody, but literally that was the first time we'd shown it to anybody. It was on stage, the Javits in New York, in this huge public forum. This was a time where big, expansive environments weren't seen too often, certainly in sort of the shooter space, which had been very corridor-focused for a long time. If you remember the demo, it started off indoors, pretty typical, but right in the middle of the demo, we took you outside in that moment of transition, and the camera panned up to show you the sun and the vista. And I think at that point, everybody who was watching and afterwards realized, wait, this is a step change in what we expect from a typical shooter. And in short order, we were out in Redmond getting it up and running on what was to become the Xbox.
Let me now unveil Xbox.
If you thought about gaming on consoles back then, there had been some big hits in the first-person shooter space with things like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, but there wasn't a long track record of shooters being a healthy genre and a big genre on console.
Halo got it right. Halo figured out how to make the controls, how to make the balance work for first-person shooters. And I specifically remember back then people saying, this will never work. You cannot put a decent first-person shooter on a console.
So when we're looking at kind of forecasts and how the marketing team and the sales team thought games would sell, Halo was somewhere down on the list. It was pretty bleak. People weren't sure it was going to make it. Frame rate was bad. Shooters, are they really going to work on console? But it definitely became the hallmark of the original Xbox.
Not only brought the FPS to the console, it brought story in an FPS, which I think is a huge, important part of Halo.
The Covenant found something buried in this ring, something horrible. And
Halo is about this incredibly powerful hero, Master Chief, and his AI sidekick, Cortana, and their journey to save the Earth. I mean, that's it. I mean, certainly there's a lot of battles along the way, and there's a lot of drama with the Covenant, but that story takes twist and turn, but your goal is to save the Earth.
Is it true?
More or less.
Being the standout launch title for the Xbox, Halo single-handedly put that piece of hardware into millions and millions of homes.
When the Xbox first released, I went to my neighbor's house. I didn't get one. My neighbor got one for Christmas, and then he got Halo, and I spent the next 6 days, I think, just at his house the entire time. We just kept playing Halo, and that's all we were doing. And then eventually I ended up buying an Xbox just so we could play Halo.
I played Halo at my friend's house and instantly loved it. I mean, we were throwing plasma grenades at each other for probably 3 hours. And after that, immediately went home to my twin brother and said, all right, we got to pool our money and get an Xbox.
Everybody back then knew what Halo was. And as a result, a lot more people who probably weren't hardcore gamers at the time began to dive in and made the decision to buy an Xbox and discovered even more.
When it seems like all is lost, when it feels as if you have no hope.
No, I don't think Xbox survives if Halo wasn't there. If you looked at the other launch games that we had, Project Gotham was a nice game. And there were a lot of games that proved that we could actually ship games on a gaming console, and Microsoft kind of had no business in doing that. It was our first time trying to do that. But Halo was the thing that I think made people look, and that gave us credibility in creating a console. We didn't sell a lot of the original Xbox, if you go back to the sales figures, but we sold a lot of Halo.
When we shipped Halo 1, we had doubt about whether the game was going to be successful, but we also didn't know if the Xbox was going to be successful, frankly. But we really didn't spend too much time thinking about, well, what would we do next, because the odds were stacked against us. Of course, when it hit and hit big, well, that's when we had to scramble. Our early plans for Halo 2, to be completely honest, were pretty disorganized. what everybody felt, very intensely was, we have a hit. We can't just ship another game like that. It has to be bigger and better. It has to have more features, more weapons. We knew that our ambition had to be greater, but frankly, we had no idea how to fill those shoes. So we struggled for a long time. Once we figured out in general, great, so we're really gonna go after the virtual couch. We're really gonna go after matchmaking in a party system. That team went heads down and ran. Okay, we're gonna try to tell a more complicated, hopefully intriguing narrative where your Covenant is a playable character. Okay, story team, go. And for a while, each team was off in the wilderness figuring out, well, how the hell are we gonna do all this stuff?
I think it's really important to be ambitious. I think it's important to have more balls in the air than you can catch at the end when it all comes down to it and you have to ship a game. But certainly you can go too far.
The year is 2552. After a long fight, our colonial defense has failed, and the Covenant have made their way to Earth.
Even though I was on the project and sitting in the trenches with the other guys, I kind of had blinders on. What I knew about the campaign was they probably cut, at least a third of the total game, maybe as much as half, I don't honestly know. And that's why Halo 2 ended up with such a jarring ending.
This is Spartan 117.
Can anyone hear me? Over. Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
One of the things I thought about really early on was, imagine that there was a Covenant commander who was in charge of events in the first Halo game. How would he have felt when he fell flat on his face, when he completely failed? What if you were that guy who got your ass handed to you by the Master Chief? What would your bosses think of you? And that's really the genesis of the Arbiter.
It was heresy.
I had either good or bad idea, depending on how you look at it, to suggest, well, what if you actually played as this guy? Wouldn't that be pretty cool if you could put yourself in his horseshoe boots and walk around with his mandible jaws and talk to other Covenant and really get the other side of his story?
Undertake as the Arbiter of Perils. Suicidal. You will die as each Arbiter.
When they switched the story around and you're playing as the Arbiter, you were like, whoa.
What would you have your Arbiter do?
It all of a sudden just took everything you knew and mixed it all up.
Oracle, what is Halo's purpose?
Collectively, the Seven.
Wrong! Not another word! Please.
It was an interesting way to innovate on the interactive storytelling.
We are the arm of the prophets, Arbiter, and you are the blade.
Ultimately, that turned out to be a lot more work and made us make some hard choices at the end. We're going to go to Earth, go into the Prophet of Truth ship, rescue Cortana, do battle with the Gravemind, and button everything up. It was extremely challenging to wrap all those different, ambitious angles into one nice, smooth, polished product. And especially at the end for the campaign, there wasn't enough runway to land what we really wanted to land.
So it was not until 2002, a good probably 6 months after we had finished the music, I finally was called into a meeting room at Microsoft and sitting around a table with all these guys. But there was one guy in the room who had dreadlocks and like a white beret and a white suit, and his name is Nile Rodgers. I think he was working with Maroon 5 in New York, and they wouldn't stay in the studio with him. They kept taking breaks, and he found out they were taking breaks and wasting time playing Halo, this new game. And they said, yeah, Niall, you gotta see this game, it's so cool. And Niall looks at him playing and he goes, yeah, but what's that music? He was the first guy who said, I want to have a company that releases game soundtracks. And he wanted Halo to be the first one.
I remember loving that soundtrack so much that I bought the soundtrack to a video game. Who does that? Nobody does that. Nobody goes like, oh, I want to hear the MIDI music from old PC games. No. But Halo was so iconic that you could release a soundtrack and I would buy it and I would listen to it in my car while not getting laid, ever. I love that song. And when the dun 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 dun, the moment that kicks in, you're like, yes, let's go.
You know, that score is just, you hear that and just immediately you're there. You're in Master Chief's helmet and you're living it.
It immersed you and you felt like you were put in this world. And that's why there's such an emotional connection. That music became your music.
I believe it's something like,
no, that's not it. But then the Halo 2 one's got the rocket like. Yeah, that's. I was dating a girl at the time, and whenever she heard the Halo theme, I could hear every door in my house slam because she knew I was going to be playing Halo for 4 hours.
As good as I like Halo 1's soundtrack, he came back after the success of Halo 1 and he said, Marty, for Halo 2, you know, I can get you anybody you want. I'll get you Steve Vai, Jeff Beck, I can get you Pink. You know, a Pink? What? Well, I hadn't really thought about guitar per se and yet, but Steve Vai or Jeff Beck, sure. Are you kidding? There's one other guitar player who was a huge fan of Halo and went outside of his agent. He went outside of everybody else. We didn't even bring it through Microsoft. I never got a contractual written permission to work with him. And that's John Mayer. John Mayer plays guitar on 2 very distinct pieces in Halo, and you hear it on the soundtrack. But I never revealed that it was him because he didn't want his agent to yell at him. He just wanted to be able to tell his friends, yeah, that's me playing on Halo 2.
Halo is one of the few games where we still have people playing the 10-year-old game. And Halo was, I think, really special, especially in the United States, as far as how it introduced a lot of people to multiplayer gaming. And with the first Halo, it was a very social experience, physically carrying your Xbox to someone's house, carrying TVs, heavy CRT TVs back in the day.
Pre-Halo and Halo 2, you had to make do with what you had. It was like, okay, we've got these modems, which are tin cans and strings. Now we need to connect them to somehow communicate with each other and then play this game against each other. Now we need a way to talk to each other to set up the play date so that we could murder each other. And it was all these disparate technologies and forums and modems and drivers and operating systems. And it was a delicate nerd dance. You would have to do a 25-minute geek ballet just to get a game synced up to be able to play with someone else. Then when Halo 2 came along, it was really as easy as pushing a button, seeing your friends, and saying, okay, I'm going to shoot you now.
With Halo 2, it changed radically because we were able to put people together without having them in the same room. We used Xbox Live, obviously.
Introducing the next arena. Butt kicking just went global. Xbox Live is here.
Max Hoberman, who designed a lot of those systems, had a really simple philosophy, which was to try and recreate the fun aspects of being together in that basement with those TVs, but do it online. And I think that's one of the reasons why it was so successful, because it kept the social, cultural aspect of that connection and didn't really make it all about technology. It made it all about fun and connecting and just sort of being around your friends.
I was in a meeting and they were explaining it to me and I was like, wait a minute, what?
I'm here to tell you all about Xbox.
You're gonna do what? You're gonna have people on a virtual couch and we don't need to be with each other? Wow. I said, that sounds cool. And then of course it came out and it was cool.
It just felt great to kill people around the world in a video game. Legitimately. I mean, you were used to doing it on your couch. And I always said when I played games, if I can't kill something, I don't really have a desire to play it. That's just the way, I just love FPSs. It comes down to the last kill and you get this voice like double kill. I mean, it was just like, you know, killing spree. And you were like, you got so emotional about it, you know, and you strove to get those small moments of awesomeness.
Not only was it a way to kind of hang out with your friends, whether in person or online, but it was also like a legitimate form of competition, right? If you're in school, it was a question of what level is that guy in Halo 2? You know, how good is he?
It was fun. At the end of the day, It was entertaining. It was just so fun.
The histories between Halo and Xbox Live, I don't think you really separate the two even today in terms of the stuff that we're trying to do with Halo 5 and innovating on Xbox Live. There's a long history there. But we all knew that when Halo finally came to Xbox Live, that would be the time. Like that would define the success or failure of Xbox Live.
You know, I think if you're a game player who hasn't tried Halo and you're playing things like Battlefield and Call of Duty, there are a lot of things that you take for granted when you start up a game. You'll go in a matchmaking playlist. You'll be matched with players with the same skill and the same interests. Obviously, they want to play the same game mode as you do. There's an even number of players that are evenly matched, so that each game is fun, each game is close, and each game is exciting. So when you finish a game, you either won or you lost, not by a huge margin, which made it fun, made it challenging. But I got to give credit to Max for that. That was his baby, and that's probably his biggest impact on the industry today, is he's kind of changed the way that we play console games online.
In a few hours, one of the most eagerly awaited video games finally goes on sale.
Preparing to rewrite retail history. Video game is expected to have bigger first-day revenues than any movie has ever had an opening day at the box office.
Biggest retail launch in entertainment history.
You know, dozens of grown men and probably about 3 women have crawled out of their parents' basements tonight to be first in line to buy the new video game Halo 2.
Video gamers across the country are anxiously awaiting the midnight release of a game called Halo 2.
45 minutes and counting for Halo 2 to go on sale.
The line right now is probably about 100 yards long.
It is the most anticipated game in entertainment history.
Well, if you're an Xbox gamer, there's a good chance you're pretty tired right now.
Halo 2 sold 2.4 million units in 24 hours.
Now, I understand there's a few more states to put in the red and blue columns. We're going to go back to the map and Rob Corddry. Rob, looking at the... Rob.
Yeah, suck it. Where's your alien plasma rifle now, bitch? Wow.
Oh. Are you playing Halo?
No. The anticipation around that, coming, that Halo 2 was going to land, I think it was just a kind of magical moment.
Bungie created something spectacular, right? And I mean, I think that the game Bungie created is why 343 exists today and why many of the fans are here. So when 343 was created to kind of take that universe and carry it forward.
There's never any question as to whether we should do a Halo 2 anniversary in terms of, I think we all kind of had that very romantic notion of going back to Halo 2.
And Halo 2 for a lot of people is that sort of perfect snapshot in time, that perfect moment. And so there was always a really sort of rousing demand for it. This is the 10th anniversary, this is the right time to do it.
This is about Master Chief's journey, his past and his future. Questioning authority and searching for the truth.
The Halo franchise is the reason Xbox is here today.
Now, as many of you know, November marks the 10-year anniversary of Halo 2. And I am excited to tell you that Halo 2 is getting the full anniversary treatment. Halo 2's multiplayer was special for a lot of reasons, and Halo 2 Anniversary will contain the original Halo 2 multiplayer exactly as it shipped 10 years ago.
When we were thinking about anything for the anniversary, the game has to be exactly the same. It has to, some of the things that people loved about Halo 2 were the glitches, and those are all, in. So for us, it's how do you keep the gameplay the same, but raise the graphical fidelity, and then how do you just have new ways to play the old game. It's the same game, but new ways to play that game. And so I think kind of mixing that new with that old is hopefully something that will be refreshing to new and old fans.
So for Halo 2 Anniversary, Saber is really focusing on the campaign, on remastering all of the graphics and making everything look wonderful on the Xbox One. They're also, because they're so tech savvy, really helping to bring up the resolution as high as possible and hit that 60 frames per second mark that we're stretching to hit.
Doing an HD remake to those older Halo 1, Halo 2 games makes a lot of sense because those games, they stand the test of time. The storytelling component of those games is great, the gameplay experience is great, so it makes a lot of sense to bring it to the new hardware.
People remember Halo 2 as a beautiful looking game, and so our objective really is to let people feel that the game they're playing now is the exact experience that they played 10 years ago. Only when they switch back will they realize the tricks their mind was playing on them because of the lapse of 10 years of time.
There's something that's just so instinctual about how that game feels and plays to you that I don't think it's something that you can identify directly. So we've always been very, very concerned with maintaining that gameplay to just feel authentic. And that authenticity is something we didn't want to lose, and something we know that it's very easy to just miss.
That back and forth switch was something that came about primarily because Danny Ayoub and I were going back and forth during the original Halo about how we really wanted to maintain that gameplay, and we really wanted to show people, look what we've done, right? And so now it just works, and it works seamlessly, and you can just see it yourself in the game. It's very cool.
In addition, just like we did with Halo 1 Anniversary, we want to add different elements, different things that the fans can, not only just relive how the game played and sort of keep that same nostalgic experience alive, but we want to add different elements to it so they can change it up too. So skulls is what we do in the Halo franchise, and these are things that are hidden throughout the levels. And once you find the skull, you can turn it on, and once it's turned on, you can change the gameplay. Some of those might mean, if you turn the Grunt birthday party skull on, anytime you headshot a Grunt, it sounds, the sound of laughter from children and confetti comes out of the Grunt. Things like that are added all throughout the game, and Saber is handling all that work. So they've been a huge asset to us, and they're really remastering the game, making it look great.
When we started Halo 2, and we got greenlit, and we had our conversations with Bonnie and Phil and all that stuff, and they're like, yeah, we want to do this. My first call was to Max Oberman. I walked out of that meeting room with Bonnie, walked to my desk and called Max and said, Max, this is happening, we're doing it.
Had some talks with Dan Ayoub at Microsoft, and he threw out the idea of doing a Halo 2 Anniversary, to which I was like, yeah, awesome, that'd be fun. So I was super excited, but even committing to doing 6 maps for Halo 2 Anniversary was a huge commitment, and it really sort of put a lot of pressure on the team. I think if you just asked our producers, the safe bet was 4. We got started on that. I was super excited, and then immediately we had some very difficult discussions. All right, we only get 6 maps. Which ones are we gonna make?
We needed to take it down from 23 or 25 down to 12. Now we had to take it down to 6. And there were a lot of really tough discussions. Eventually the decision was, let's have 2 small, 2 medium, and 2 large.
Turned out some of the really small maps were some of the best maps. Maps like Lockout, top of the list, right? Where it's just kind of a no-brainer. Those were really easy.
Every single map seems to outdo itself. Ascension it's incredible to me. One of the best skyboxes I think I've ever seen in any Halo map. And you can go up and just stand on the edge and sort of look out this Halo ring and just see all this movement out there. It just feels so lifelike. I've actually just jumped off the edge and, just to my death, and it just felt like I was falling. It is really cool. So the map's really coming to life.
On Ascension, adding that bubble shield in the middle is very deliberate because we want more variety than the map just turning into a sniper fest. And that shield adds that variety. It gives you moments where close range combat matters and where you have some more cover and some more protection and that sort of thing. But how do you do that in a way that doesn't fundamentally break what works and doesn't make it so it isn't any fun for snipers on the map, for instance? So I think we hit the nail on the head with that one.
There's more dynamic elements in the maps. There are more interactive elements. You're able to change the way the flow and the nature of the map works. There's certain things you can shoot, for example, that will close gates or change the path through the level. And those things are going to add a fair amount of variety to the experience.
So what you guys are seeing here is a piece of concept from a map we haven't announced yet.
Any ideas what map?
Yeah, has anyone guessed it yet?
What?
Come on, this is a big giveaway,
if you know
guys.
it, come on. I can't hear you.
That's right, guys. Coag is back.
Yeah.
we showed off what turned out to be almost everybody's favorite announcement, which was the Gun Goose. That was kind of fun. We knew we'd have a good reception, but we didn't anticipate quite how positive the reception would be.
What's better than a mongoose? A mongoose with guns.
Yep. Nice. Yeah.
It's just absolute home run. It's probably some of the best fun I've ever had in Halo, and that's a pretty major statement because I've had a lot of fun in Halo.
The art treatment and everything that Max and his team at Certain Affinity have been doing has really been true to the original. Just keeping it updated and adding all of this, cool new features and awesome skyboxes. They knew that it was great when it launched 10 years ago. They didn't want to change that.
There's generally a lot of work involved with an anniversary edition. There's a lot of people who are attached to the sound of Halo, myself included. I really like the sounds that they did in the original, but I feel like they can be touched up and modernized and brought into a higher fidelity for the game environment.
I think some of the best challenge I have found in this is knowing that the fans are so big on this game and in trying to find new tone and new texture, but still simulate the old feel. I'm going through a bit of a detective process, so I'm listening to the old sounds. We have them broken down as small bits as we can, and then I have to find all the different ingredients that might be in there that I can re-simulate to sound similar, but to be a little brighter, better sound quality. In starting with larger characters, we try to build a base, of course, to get that resonated sound. How do we get the weight? How do we make it sound heavy? We'll play it. It's like, oh, it sounds really big. It's got good energy. Missing the metal. So then we'll find the right metallic tone, and then we'll re-perform it the same way with the new flavor. And we play those two together. It's like, all right, sounding big, sounding metallic. What's missing now? Some body movement. Now we got to find a new texture. Maybe it's leather, maybe it's skin. And then that would be like a third layer, and then continue to play it until we start hearing all of the different layers. And so we could end up with 6 or 8 different sounds for one movement in a character.
So one of the cool things that we ended up recording this time around, which is totally experimental, were tuning forks. And we thought that would go really well with the Energy Sword, but it needed a little bit more. The Energy Sword is this sleek, sort of elegant weapon, but it's also a killing machine. So we actually bought some dry ice, and we were thinking, hey, what might sound good with this dry ice? And we just started randomly dropping objects on it. What we really thought was cool was when we dropped ball bearings on it. So we ended up using the ball bearings on the dry ice and the sizzling and the burning and the screaming. And what we did is we had the engineer room actually feed that back to us through a loudspeaker in the Foley room. And we then set up a microphone, and we actually made the sword motion from the game. And that allowed us to capture more of a natural and sort of unique sound.
Here is what shipped in the game 10 years ago. We wanted something with a little more body, we wanted something with a little more musicality, and we wanted something with more power. Here's kind of the direction we're going now.
We decided to go out and capture new source material this time around. Obviously, you can't go out and record a battle rifle. You can go out and record things that are similar to it. But what we wanted to do is kind of choose weapons that had unique characteristics. So for example, the Thompson machine gun. It's got a unique clack, 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 clack sort of sound to it. And that's a very unique characteristic that we wanted to kind of carry over into some of the newer weapons. Each gun kind of felt different. The M1 Garand obviously is the big, beastly 30-06 large caliber gun. Really packs a punch, you can really feel it in your chest. And then there's the silent submachine gun, the MP5, that really has a unique sort of kathwack sound. You let it fly and then you hear the thump down range. It's pretty cool.
My personal shotgun is the shotgun in Halo 2 Anniversary. I completely forgot about that, but that was a fun day.
The terminal started in Halo 3. They had little Easter eggs where if you found a little data pad, it would have
a text document that you could read to get deeper into the story. And then they expanded that with Halo 3 ODST, but Halo 1 Anniversary was when we really stepped it up, hired the sequence group to come in, do all the paint release style terminals. So that was a new addition for Halo 1 Anniversary, and then we decided to do it again in Halo 2.
This is how my story begins.
We kind of sized up like, okay, so what are the things that fans have always wanted to know more about? It's this relationship between the prophets and the elites, this situation in the Covenant, kind of the big lie, really, that the prophets have held over the rest of the Covenant for who knows how long, that leads to the events of Halo 2, the breaking of the Covenant, the war between the elites and the brutes and the prophets, and what role does the Arbiter play in all of this? So that's a question fans have been asking for a long time. Thinking towards the future, what do we think fans will want to know more about, a year or two from now, is we're pretty sure they're going to want to know a lot more about Spartan Locke, or Agent Locke as we meet him.
Pursuant to Office of ONI Retrieval and Acquisition's inquiry of 26 September 2552, the following is a target profile of Thel 'Vadamee, Supreme Commander of the Covenant Fleet of Particular Justice.
The terminals form a connective tissue for this world, and we're getting a chance again to realize this in a much more vibrant, affected, pointed way that users would appreciate.
A lot of our stories within the Halo terminals are additional narrative, their backstory. And a lot of it is kind of exploration even further than some of the novels. And so we're saying, okay, well, this is one shot where, post the Halo ring exploding, and, does this tie into this novel, and does this make sense for this 1-2 second shot? Because it's got to fit the entire Halo universe, and that's a big challenge.
Halo has had a very definitive style from day one, and it's evolving over time and keeps growing and growing. But one of the things that's unique about what Sequence brings to it is that it has its own style. It's much more of a painterly look to it, and it makes it feel like it's a graphic piece versus a 3D piece.
To see what Sequence has done from a visual standpoint it's breathtaking. The terminals that I worked on, they did some amazing stuff with High Charity's interiors. They did some incredible stuff with worlds that we haven't talked about yet, and I think fans are really, really going to get a kick out of that.
When we were doing the voice acting for all the terminals, we had people in Redmond on Skype listening into the session in LA with the guys from Vancouver. All these pieces have to come together.
It's amazing to get to see the voice talent, because obviously they're such an integral part to what we do with the terminals. To be able to go to the studio and actually see them perform is amazing, because we're able to sort of show them the rough drawings and the animatics, and they're able to sort of feed off our work as well. So to be able to go down and see what they do and really appreciate and also contribute, it's great to be able to be involved in that.
I really am glad that they're revisiting it, sort of giving it new life. I mean, take a 10-year-old game and then actually tie it into the future of the Halo franchise as well. That's really cool. Honestly, that's one of the coolest things that I think we did during these sessions.
Everybody here just lit up. It was like, oh my God, this is the Holy Grail. This is Halo. Oh my God, this is huge.
My name is Keith David, and I play the Arbiter. When it came up and they were looking for, this character, the Arbiter, and I got the first script and read it, I was like, wow, I like this guy. I like this character. And you see what he looks like, it's very different. And, through the different incarnations of the game, I love the way it's evolved. I love these stories. My friend's trust is not the issue today, Spartan Locke. It is my trust you must earn. You are a hunter, yes? A seeker of things. And now you hunt other Spartans.
Getting to meet somebody like Keith David, a character, I know him through his character in the Halo series really well. It is a really cool thing to see that in real life,
Oh, this time I'm going to have an Earl Grey.
Everything he says is epic.
You get to be on the other side of the glass and take this, be the first ears that hear these performances, you know, and get giddy and excited about it, knowing where it's going to go and knowing what millions of people are going to get to enjoy.
It's a huge deal bringing back Keith David and having the Arbiter, and then adding this new character of Spartan Locke, and have this story be more complete and more connected in the fiction. That's an amazing start to a journey that I think Halo fans are going to be thrilled with.
A lot of the narrative work we do is best done with actual VO narrative storytelling. I mean, if people watch something without any audio, you realize that it's 50% of what you're doing. I mean, it sets the feeling, the tone before anything else can. It's extremely powerful, so it's a big part of our work.
The following is a target profile of Thel 'Vadamee, Supreme Commander of the Covenant Fleet of Particular Justice and compiled by Lieutenant Commander Locke.
I like to think of him as a career soldier in a sense that he has a lot of tools, he has a lot of pedigree, and he's been in the forces for a long time. He's not really old, but when you start very young, you have a lot to learn. So I look at him as a career soldier in the sense that he came out, he was a cut above the rest. He was really good from the start. He's a leader, and he's learning on the job, but he has the tools and the know-how, the temperament to get it done.
Bringing back Tim Dodabo, who's the voice of Guilty Spark, I mean, it's just an evergreen character and an evergreen sound. It's so incredible to kind of hear him come back and just instantly be Guilty Spark.
Greetings, I am 343 Guilty Spark. I learned a small amount about your covenant before that reclaimer blew up my installation. Quite unacceptable.
And we're rolling when you're ready.
But Oracle, I do not understand. We were told the rings are salvation, a gateway to paradise.
That's smoother.
Communications. Shut down all lines to the fleet.
He's got that presence. He's been there. He's done that. He's not of the earth, though. So there's something otherworldly about him. So when he approaches something, it's from a very different viewpoint than mine. So it's, you know, he's just got that texture comes from knowing and from a lifetime of experience and of what he's been through.
The elites are blind, Arbiter, but I will make them see.
So Microsoft came to us and like, okay, we have this Halo 2 project where we basically have to recreate those cinematics that we had before, but now we want to pump it up res it. But the thing is, it's 58 minutes worth of footage. Oh, okay.
A lot of times people come to us and they say, hey, here's our game and here's what's cool about it. Make something great. And we go off and do it. This time, the structure was already there. We're using the same timing, we're using the same story. And because that structure was there, it really gives us time to focus on the visual fidelity and the performance of what was already there.
So yeah, no, we couldn't say no. After it's more, okay, now that we've said yes, how do we do it? So for the choice of actors, we actually found the perfect like mix of people that could do mocap, that had the facial features that we wanted, and that were also great lip syncers, so that they could perform their facial and also be very technical to hit all this facial expression at the right amount, at the right moment.
You know, your father never asked me for help either.
The actors look like their digital counterparts in the film, and we're really capturing their performances and keeping all the nuances that it's really hard to animate.
Gotcha.
You know, your father never asked me for help either.
The index is secure.
You know, there's a large chunk of the human brain whose sole purpose is to decode the content of the human face. Oddly enough, women do it twice as fast as men. But that piece of your brain is there to look at faces and understand what's going on. And a lot of people, even if you're not artists, will be able to look at CG-generated face and say, there's something wrong with that. I don't understand, but it's off-putting. They may not be able to tell you what's wrong, but they know it's wrong, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. I think there's some deep primal monkey brain sort of thing going on there. But this process kind of circumvents that. All those little subtle nuances that are really hard to put in there by hand, if you're an animator, kind of come for free because we're capturing everything. All those little things are there. The computer doesn't miss it, even if we did.
Playing Cortana was really unique because there's, in this particular version that we're doing and using the MOVA, you're in such a small space to work with, and as an actor, it was really fun and challenging, creating this new character, but having to match a voice that's already there, and making sure that I gave the performance that you want that matched not only the mocap, but then going back in and matching it with your actual movement on your face, and you can move this much.
And then there's the action sequence, which was nuts because it was literally Frank being like, you jump, you run, you fall, land, look up, oh no! See the go, get it. Buzzers, look around. It was that kind of thing. And you're doing it all just with this kind of movement with your head because you can't do any more than that.
We got to those really funny moments where the comments would be like, could you run more but not move? It was really funny.
Yeah, one of the great things about games is, you can play multiple roles in the same production. So, being the Arbiter and being Johnson, there are actually scenes where I'm fighting myself. So that's actually very cool, and it was a lot of fun to, figure out how to portray that and watch how they figured out what we were going to do to make that work.
How you doing?
The big focus of this has been working onto the facial performance of the actors and trying to really translate what they've done into the CG world.
The first time that we saw a picture of Johnson, we thought it was a real dude. We were like, okay, so who's this guy and why are we seeing a picture of him? And then when we started seeing it moving, we were just like, okay, this is animated, but it's really good. And you start to see the aliens, the Covenants, the brutes, all these different species. It's phenomenal, the work that they're doing. And to have, I think it's 56 minutes, more or less an hour of content. As a Halo fan, that gets my blood going.
This is going to be I think a world premiere of the latest footage that you guys have brought, complete with a lot of explosions. So let's roll that.
In the event of unexpected shutdown, the entire system will move to standby status. All remaining platforms are now ready for remote activation.
Remote activation? From here?
I must get inside.
Then mount up, Orbit.
Your pal, where's he going?
To finish what we started. And this time, none of you will be left behind.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
We're at Skywalker Sound, and we just concluded a long week of recording for Halo 2 Anniversary.
Halo was the reason that I was inspired to get into the video game business. Before that, I was making records for 15 years. And 2001, when Halo came out, just changed my whole world. That's when I finally saw the world of video games, which is my other love from when I was a kid. We're talking pre-Atari 2600 days. I'm aging myself. Halo just opened up my eyes to a whole new possibility of this is what I need to be doing.
Being a composer, I have my own sensibilities as far as how I would approach any given project, but since this is a project where the music's already composed, and what we're really doing is revisiting the material, the puzzle becomes, how do you honor the material? How do you keep it fresh? and interesting for, a new generation.
It's a cool process to record and produce large-scale orchestral music. I mean, let's just take the orchestra for a second. I mean, you've got 85 very highly trained musicians, and you've got Wataru, who's the conductor, who the amount of trust we have in him to emotionally convey and coax out of the players the performance we want is incredibly high.
Millions of people love this game, and they really, they are so heavily attached to the game and the music. And for me to be able to be a part of it as a conductor, to throw in my interpretation and to get the orchestra together and work with this team, as one of the team members, to create this gigantic soundtrack is just so rewarding.
He will take our direction, and Wataru just has a way of expressing that back to the orchestra in a language that they just completely understand. I mean, on the first anniversary, he said something that all of us in the booth still remember. Act as if you are tucking the baby into bed. And suddenly the orchestra was like, oh, and then they would just go to play, and the notes would just float up and through the roof and out into the universe.
This music is not only in the classical style, but it also has the elements of rock. And also, it's very earthy. At the same time, it's very out there in the space. So taking those elements all together gives me an idea of what expressions are, like phrasings. Let's say, like this should be like, it sounds like an Irish dance, this one phrase, but it's not really an Irish. It's more like a space Irish. It's like an alien Irish dance. So it's like a whole hybrid score. So I would share that with an orchestra, and this orchestra is so wonderful that they get an instant idea of what we're aiming for.
I mean, if I could put him in my pocket and carry him to all the gigs I do, I would. He's so expressive, and he really gets the best out of the orchestra, and he understands the essence of what he's supposed to do and finds the best way to bring out what, some have characterized as perfection on demand.
The music from Halo 2 is really attractive from a choral conducting standpoint and a choral singer standpoint, because so much of it is vocally based. And one of my favorite styles is Gregorian chant, and you hear that influence throughout the score.
So when you take the full breadth of the symphony, and then you take the full breadth of the opera chorus, and then the boys' choir just singing perfectly, just that incredible, beautiful sound, it's visceral. I mean, it's an emotional experience.
Add to that somebody like Steve Vai, which was a fantastic experience. We just had a great day.
Halo 2 introduced Steve Vai into the mix, and that was also another iconic move. I mean, that was Steve Vai is Steve Vai, right?
To those who don't know, Steve Vai is basically God, on guitar, I don't know if you get any bigger than Steve Vai in terms of, I'm a guitarist, and I have my own sound, and you can recognize me from a mile away, He's a legend.
Because of my contribution on the last one, I received the call, and I thought about it, and I said, yeah, I enjoyed that. And I always wanted to come up to Skywalker and work and record here. And it's a gorgeous studio, and work with such creative people. They really pulled a tremendous team together. So it was a pleasure and an honor to be invited back.
That is stupid.
That dude can just go, I'm more like a composer. I take my time. He's just I've got a guitar. Okay, awesomeness is about to happen. Now let's pick which version of awesomeness we're gonna go with,
I had no idea what would happen 10 years from the date that I did the original guitar part in the soundtrack for the first Halo 2. But I had a blast doing it then. My friend Nile Rodgers called me. He was producing the soundtrack. And I have 2 boys, and they were really they loved the game. When I told them I was playing on the Halo 2 soundtrack, they couldn't believe it. It was like I finally impressed them,
So yeah, I might quit guitar tomorrow because of what I saw today.
There was a lot of energy and momentum around doing a Halo 2 anniversary. I think that with a new platform coming out, we kind of went back and forth on really what was the right thing to land on the platform for the first time as Halo. And so I think we went back and forth between, is Halo 2 Anniversary as a standalone enough? But Dan, who runs the publishing org and is a notorious sandbagger, came back with we can do Halo 2 Anniversary, but we might also be able to do 1, 3, and 4. And so that obviously became a pretty amazing prospect. It really was just a question of whether we could pull it off.
It's a challenging process. I mean, a few things work in our favor. These are partners that we've worked with before. But at the end of the day, everybody has one thing in common, and that is a love for what we're doing and a passion to make this the best it can be.
The idea of being able to play all 4 of them on the same platform, which we'd never been able to do, as well as get the anniversary edition of Halo 2 was sort of a no-brainer once that actually became a realistic sort of production reality.
And then magic happened, and I think we all got really excited, and we felt like that was really the way to start our journey on Xbox One. Going into E3, I think everyone knew we were going to announce Halo 2. I think we waited a long time. Typically, we would have announced before E3. Everyone knew we were going to announce Halo 2.
No one really believed that we would do something as ambitious as the Master Chief Collection.
The simple fact that nobody believed that it was going to be what it was actually great momentum for us to ride into E3. I've been rehearsing this forever, and I've got the points that I want to hit with everything that's coming. So I get up there, Bonnie does the intro, I get up on stage and I start talking about the collection, and we hop into the multiplayer, and the multiplayer stuff looks great, but then the closing is really where the punch is going to be, right? The closing is where we're going to say it's all 4 games, it's 60 frames per second, it's 1080p, it's quite literally every multiplayer map that has ever been made. And I'm getting to that point, and then I just start to hear it, right? Like people are cheering. And as I'm going down the points, now that just the room's going nuts, you've got the energy from the room. When I walked off the stage, there's just this wash of pride come over you, right? It's like, yeah, we were right. This is what people want. Nicely done.
We know where Master Chief is going with Halo 5, and I think it's a super interesting story. And it does have to do with his past, and for us, being able to kind of tell that story and lead into the future story was super exciting. And when we thought about what we wanted to do with 1, 2, 3, 4, it is the Halo 2 anniversary. It does deserve special treatment.
When I heard what 343 publishing team was planning as far as all these different games and all these different, flip toggle between these up-res versions and this unified UI and unified matchmaking and everything else, I thought they were insane. I thought they were crazy, honestly. Such a massive undertaking.
I'm not just passionate about Halo, but I'm passionate about what Halo can be and what it can become. And I think for all of us, we're so invested in Halo for the long term, right? It is a universe that we believe in, and it is a universe that we want to sort of continue to evolve and grow and innovate with. And I think that's that level of dedication and passion is pretty standard at 343.
When the games launch and we go to these midnight events where the game is finally on sale, seeing how excited people are, seeing that people actually came to a store at midnight and freezing cold to pick up a game they could just as easily have ordered from Amazon the day before is exciting because they want to share that joy with us and we get to share it back with them.
The thing that I'm most excited for with Halo 2 Anniversary and with the Master Chief Collection in general, is going back with my friends from 10 years ago and playing 3v3 one flag on lockout or classic CTF on midship. For me, at least, that's going to be the place that I'm going to spend the most time, is playing those classic maps with friends from 10 years ago, calling people up that I haven't spoken to in so long and asking them to get online. It'll be weird conversations. Hey, are you getting on Halo 2 tonight?
The universe is a big place, right? I mean, I think this franchise can go anywhere, and I think we're all honored to be part of that process of charting where this thing can go. But again, the universe is a big place, and I don't think there are any limits to how big this can get.
This is Spartan 117. Anyone hear me?
I love picking up the sniper because it feels amazing when you get that one hit to the head to get that one hit kill. I picked up the shotgun a few times, just ran at people, shooting them in the face.
To see it kind of remade with better graphics, you know, have a real incentive to go back and play the old games, feel the nostalgia. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
People are going to absolutely go mad for the Master Chief Collection. It's like a love letter to Halo. You know, you got the Halo 1 through 2.
When we finally see our work go out in the real world, I mean, it's so gratifying. I mean, I know this sounds really